All right, so I'm going to pick up in the middle of 6.1 where we left off in the last lecture. So we had done factoring of the GCF from a polynomial. This is going to be factoring by grouping. All right, so I call this like the double GCF or GCF by pairs. Generally use this for a polynomial of 4 terms. Okay, and the basic process here is to pair up the terms. Factor out the GCF of pairs. So the 2 terms in the pair will have a GCF, and then we will factor out the GCF from the next set of terms. So factor out the GCF of the resulting 2 terms. Okay. So let's just look at some examples to see how this works. Factor each polynomial by grouping. All right. First example, 8x to the 5th minus 10x cubed plus 12x squared minus 15. All right. So notice if we look for a GCF among all of these terms, well, okay, so 8 is divisible by 2. In fact, we have to have it divisible by 2. 15 is not divisible by 2, so we're not going to be able to get a GCF out of this. None of the factors of 8 divide 15. None of the factors of 15 divide 8. We also don't have any powers of x in this term, so we can't get even get 1x out of there as a GCF. Okay, so what we want to do first, pair up your terms. And you can pair them any way you want, but it often works to just pair them up as they're shown. And notice each of these pairs, so if we just look in the parentheses here, then we can find a GCF of those 2 terms. So 8 and 10 are both divisible by 2. And x to the 3rd and x to the 5th, they're divisible by the lowest power of x to the 3rd. If we factor that out then, so let's take, we do 8x to the 5th divided by 2x cubed. That leaves 4x squared. And then 10x cubed divided by 2x cubed will leave us with a minus 5. Okay. Then we need to do the same thing to this pair here. So maybe notice that these are both divisible by 3. 12x squared divided by 3 will leave a 4x squared. Minus 15 divided by 3 will leave a negative 5. All right, so we factored out the GCF of the pairs. Now notice that we have 2 terms, and these 2 terms have a GCF of 4x squared minus 5. So we factor that out. And then what's left is the 2x cubed and the 3. And that is a completely factored polynomial. All right. So let me give you an example to do on your own. let's try 15x cubed minus 10x squared minus 9x plus 6. Okay, I'm actually going to work this one because it has a subtle point that I want to show you before you try it out yourself. So when we have a negative sign in the middle here, you actually want to keep that negative with the 9, with the coefficient that it's next to. Okay, so we'll start by pairing them up, and that's where we can make sure to keep the negative sign. I will always do the parentheses because then I can take the negative sign with the 9x, I'll put a plus in the middle, and then minus 9x plus 6 in the parentheses. And I would always do it with the plus. Otherwise, you can really mess up your sign and it'll change the whole result. Okay, so the GCF of 15x cubed minus 10x squared, that would be a 5x squared. That leaves 3x minus 2. Okay, plus, now when I'm looking at this one, and I want to figure out what can I factor out. So we know that these are both divisible by 3, but I know we do want to match this term. Whatever you factor out of here, the leftover should be equal to this 3x minus 2. So in order to make this, we need a positive first term there. In order to make it positive, we should factor out the negative sign too. So let's factor out the negative 3. When I divide negative 9x by negative 3, I get a positive 3x. When I divide a 6 by a negative 3, I get a negative 2. And that way they match. And that's also why I make sure to keep the sign with it. And I'm making sure I actually factor out the right term in the end. Okay. Finally, what we need to do is factor out that 3x plus 2, or minus 2, sorry. And it leaves behind 5x squared minus 3. And that's factored. All right. So finally, here's the example for you to work on. So let's do 6x squared minus 2x minus 9x plus 3. So now pause the video and try to work this out on your own. When you're ready, play again and we'll go through the answer. All right. So again, making sure that we get them paired correctly. We want to put the 6x squared and the minus 2x in one parenthesis, plus, and then take the negative 9x plus 3, put that in the other parenthesis. Greatest common factor of the 6x squared and the minus 2x is a 2x. So that will leave us with 3x minus 1. And here, okay, we know we need a positive 3. So I'm going to divide by negative 3. Pull a negative 3 out as the GCF. When we divide, we get 3x. 3 divided by negative 3 is negative 1. All right. Now we need to factor out the 3x minus 1. And that leaves behind a 2x minus 3. All right, by the way, when you're doing this, if you want to check your work, you can do that by using FOIL. So let's check our work on this one. All right, so we start from the bottom. Oh, sorry, it's a 2x minus 3. All right, FOIL means I go first terms. So 3x times 2x is 6x squared. Outside terms gives us a minus 9x. Inside terms is a minus 2x. And minus 1 times minus 3 is plus 3. Okay, and it should get back what we started with when we were factoring. Now the 2x and the 9x are in a different order, but they're both there with the right coefficient and everything. That means we did it right. That's just fine, as long as all the terms are there.